Make 4, I want you to run back to the stand belt. Make 4.
Make 4.
Welcome back to the DCS SITREP, where we discuss news and information on the world's premier combat flight simulator for the home PC, DCS World. It's produced by Eagle Dynamics, and I'm your host for this week's episode number 8, Prickly Hedgehog. Well, as most of you will now be aware, ED released its first big patch of 2024, which was delayed a day, but featured nonetheless massive changes across the board, from bug fixes to new flight models and the merging of the open beta game with the stable version. So let's take a look at this week's newsletter from ED, as well as some details from this massive change log. We'll start with the cosmetic overhaul of the DCS Flaming Cliffs aircraft, which have received a texture refresh upgrade to their cockpit and external textures. The F-15C, A-10A, Su-27, Su-33 and J-11 have received new cockpits and external textures. The Su-25 has received new cockpit textures. These upgrade cockpits focus on detail and realism and include physical-based rendering or PBR textures. This free upgrade enhances Flaming Cliffs 3 to the 2024 texture standards and promises to maintain Flaming Cliffs 3 as an excellent choice for new and veteran DCS pilots. Now, for those unfamiliar, these aircraft can be bought as part of the Flaming Cliffs 3 bundle, which I believe gives you a little bit of a savings actually if you pick it up that way, or if you don't want the whole pack, you can buy them individually. But if you do buy Flaming Cliffs 3, you'll get a series of low-fidelity aircraft, not that they don't look good, as this new patch indicates, which are really fun to fly, and they won't soak up all of your free time with learning complex aircraft systems that you get in the full-fidelity aircraft. We're talking here, the Hornet, the Viper, the F-15E, so on and so forth. So ED are quite correct. This is a great way to start out your DCS career before embarking on that study sim path. So they go on to say that their goal is to further improve the new user DCS experience, and the Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft provide professional level flight models but with simplified controls, as I mentioned, that result in a shallower learning curve for those new virtual pilots among you. The F-15C, A-10A, Su-27, Su-33, J-11, MiG-29A, MiG-29S and the Su-25 provide a variety of aircraft that range from air superiority to attack. These come with a wealth of missions and campaigns and are operable on most of the online service. So if you're not already flying Flaming Cliffs 3, they say this is a great time to jump in and enjoy this great value, which I agree with. Now, even for those of you or those of us that are not flying Flaming Cliffs 3 aircraft, I'm still pleased to see that there are cosmetic improvements going on, especially as they relate to AI assets as well, to give us some more immersion and certainly some decent cinematic experiences. This is useful for content creators too, who rely on AI aircraft from time to time to bolster visual experiences. So overall, I think this is a great improvement to the game, and it's going to be interesting to see how other AI assets, which are also set for improvements, are going to be part of a pay-for-download upgrade, I believe. So we'll see if more information comes to hand on that.
You're completed. Up to max trap +1. Switch and switch.
Now, since we're on the theme of visuals, a big winner of visual improvements this week was the Gazelle helicopter by Polychop, which has seen something of an electronic virtual renaissance in recent times. The team once again injected more visual improvements, which include the following: exterior model art updates that add new physical-based rendering, or PBR, as we have already discussed, material for glass surfaces, this looks really cool, 3D model detail additions, a reworked, damaged, and destroyed 3D model set. They've fixed the general PBR material improvements, and they've also fixed the 3D model shape and smoothing. They've overhauled and replaced all the external textures and liveries in full PBR, and it does look a lot better. I'll add a link to the full list of liveries for you in the description below, but they range from numerous French skins, as is to be expected given it's a French aircraft, to UK liveries and colours in addition, which brings new life into this nifty little helicopter. The helicopter received other updates as well, and I believe there is still work being done on the flight model to improve that. And again, that link will be in the description below. Most of you will be perhaps more interested in the work being done on the Kiowa but I have no new insights at this time with regards to that project. We know that it was last in the hands of the ED external testers for assessment, which is a big bonus. So fingers crossed we'll hear some more positive news on that soon, because it's going to be a busy year for ED and the third-party developers. There seems to be, in my mind, a lot of projects colliding for release in 2024. There are a large number of projects in the works, as I said, but it was good to see that plenty of the modules within the current lineup also received plenty of attention from this week's patch. As described in previous SITREPs, one of the big changes coming was a rework of the Hornet's flight model. As I mentioned previously, this should provide a much bigger AOA range, up to 50 units, but at potential loss of speed if not monitored properly, and we had a discussion about that last week, I think. So the overhaul should see better on-speed behaviors according to that analysis, and also control while experiencing crosswinds should also improve, and they also updated the accuracy of the automatic flight control systems, among other things. I'm still testing this out myself to see how it feels compared to the previous iteration, and I'll let you know if there's more that I want to discuss on that. Right now it's still sort of a work in progress for me to get the best out of that. Another aircraft seeing major updates was Razbam's F-15E, and no doubt you saw some of Notso's videos covering several topics stemming as a result of some of these updates in the past week. The list of changes includes a large number of fixes ranging from the gun sight accuracy, which people were complaining about being a little bit off, and also updating the aircraft models, among other things. I counted up here that there were more than 20 fixes, 5 additions, and about 9 updates and improvements to various systems within the aircraft. This will please, no doubt, fans of the famous bomb truck, which of course is still in early access and is still undergoing many changes as the various systems come online. Obviously, one thing that I do get referenced a lot are people that are waiting for this particular piece of equipment, and that is the sniper pod. Now, the Viper received numerous fixes, also ranging from the idle nozzle position being too wide to possible crashes upon release of the GBU-24. The Apache received extensive fixes also, which includes being able to now add the FCR mast as a loadout option in the rearm refuel menu. Hey, what are you doing? Bullets going missing after 3,000 meters, and the AGM-114L missile will not launch below 38 feet on the Sinai map, among many other changes. So pretty much every aircraft received updates this past week, though a couple were really worked on since the last December patch. One of these was the Mirage F1 by Argus, which includes multiple models of the delightful plane, remember, including that 2-seat version, the BE version, I think it is, off the top of my head. So the list again was extensive enough that the team listed them out under the headings as follows. These include systems, communications, flight controls, controls indicators, and miscellaneous. So quite a list of changes there. The only other aircraft really that competed with that list from Argus for extensive updates was Heapler's Viggen, which was really interesting. This continues this aircraft to get a lot of attention from Heapler as that team injects new material into the game to keep its first real module in DCS competitive. It is still a very popular Cold War era module, of course, and is regularly flown. I see a lot of fans of this aircraft whenever it gets mentioned. Still, a lot of people have a lot of respect for this aircraft. It will slot in quite nicely, I think, with the new Kohler map in some capacity, and the Kohler team from Orbix are working very hard to bring you a top-notch map experience. I can't say much on that map because I'm covered by an NDA, but between drinks, if you like, I try to get in and fly. They're doing a lot of work on bug fixing and aesthetic improvements right now, so I think you're going to enjoy this map when it becomes available. Now, in addition to the planes, several maps and numerous campaigns also received tweaks and fixes, and I noted that Sim Sedlow, who works on the Inherent Resolve missions with the F-15E and other aircraft, also published a short video on some of the mission editor changes he noticed, and he has been busy reworking all his missions to accommodate some of these new additions, say for example to the F-15E, which was exciting. That's almost a full-time job in itself, and on that basis, and I forgot to mention this a while back, or at least I can't remember if I did, but many of you will be familiar with Baltic Dragon, who's always busy fixing bugs on his numerous campaigns between patches. He stated that he is actually quitting his day job coming up here to go full-time on campaign work, which is really exciting. Both him and also Reflected Simulations are some of our most prolific campaign makers. There are others too, and actually I'm helping out a little bit with Looking Glass, who are doing an upcoming campaign as well, so stay tuned for that.
4 set, 520 F14.
4 set, 520 F14. 1,000 over. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we mentioned earlier that ED consolidated this patch, the 2 versions of the game that previously existed. There is a dedicated server version, which is a separate thing here from this particular topic, but there is now only 1 version of the game you'll need in order to keep up to date with the modules and regular patches and stay in step with DCS World. So open beta and stable are now 1, and community members will no longer need to run both versions for the newest and latest additions, and running the stable version for, I guess, less bugginess. This often caused a lot of confusion, especially for newcomers and new community members to the game, especially when a new model was released, or at least a new module was released. And I've lost track of this, but I fielded many a question asking, why prickly are you flying this aircraft outside of ones that I've had early access to before the community, where everyone else seems to have the latest aircraft? And so the response was always, are you using open beta? And then often the reply was, what's open beta? So we don't have to worry about that anymore. Everyone should be on the same page, and I think this is a really smart move by ED. It eliminates that confusion for starters, it eliminates the redundancy, and means when updates arrive or new content is injected, everyone gets it basically at the same time without having to be part of the open beta club. Saves a lot of disk space, etc, etc, especially for people that are on metered connections and so on and so forth. So I think this is a really smart move. I'm sure this creates less work for ED2, not having to have 2 versions of the game to update, and while it's still getting plenty of feedback, that is, ED is getting plenty of feedback from a wider number of regular players as well, and that must be beneficial for the game. So let me know what you think. I did notice some hiccups with key bindings with the last patch, which caught me out with aircraft not doing what I expected them to. I couldn't get the Gazelle recently to fly forwards, and then I realized that one of the controls that I don't have mapped for that aircraft was suddenly mapped, and it was doing goofy things. Same thing with the Hornet. When I first launched off the boat, I immediately nosedived into the sea, which was unrecoverable and not what I was expecting. So several periphery devices suddenly came into play. Other than that minor hiccup, though, I think it was a pretty smooth update. Let me know if you had a different experience. I did hear some issues with VR. So while we discuss the core game, it's worth noting too, from the overview of the changelog, that ED also included several bugs, fixes, and updates and improvements to the core game as well. So this includes terrain scenery performance for optimized instancing and improved and optimized streaming. That's great news. I'm still really eager to see if and when Vulkan API is added in 2024, what kinds of improvements we should see, and I do believe it will unlock the game a little bit more for the developers to get more out of what they can currently offer given the restrictions of DirectX 11, so stay tuned for more on that. They also said here that AI helicopters were crashing while in the vertical takeoff. That's been fixed. Moonlight reflections causing a blinding halo effect on the sea have been fixed. Flickering shadows and mirrors at night at certain angles have been fixed. That comes up now and again, and I noticed some artifacts and stuff in VR, which is a slightly different issue, but yeah, that's not good news. With mirrors, it's always a thing with regards to frame rates and other issues that crop up from time to time, more in terms of just some visual rippling and things like that from time to time, depending on the map, depending on the lighting environment. They have also fixed here the likelihood of AI aircraft colliding with trees while navigating over mountaintops. And we'll round out here with a mention for the S3B Viking tanker, where they have adjusted the mechanics of releasing the refueling basket and the refueling process, which is really cool. That AI aircraft being redone visually was a really nice boost, and I'm looking forward to Heapler's mention of the A6 Intruder AI aircraft, which was meant to be released actually last summer but didn't materialize. They have talked about it's coming soon. They also have indicated that they are going to do a refueling version of the Intruder as well, which would be cool. Now, these aircraft were primarily designed to give a splash of gas to aircraft in the carrier pattern running on fumes. Good reminder there of the stress and the pressure cooking flying experiences for naval ops. especially when you factor in weather conditions and definitely nighttime ops as well. Huge kudos to those naval pilots. I don't know how they do it. They are some of the best in the business, no doubt, in my mind. So thanks to all of those peeps. If there's any of you guys listening, and ladies actually, who are listening to the SITREP, tip of the hat, because you are amazing people. Now, the overall list of changes, remember this is a synopsis. It's too vast for me to go line by line across all of the categories. And it was, as you'd expect, in almost 2 months since the last patch, a very, very big file. So I will refer you again to the changelog. I will put a link into that if you want to look up something specifically to your aircraft or other changes that you were interested in. Like I said, we'd be here for 2 hours if we went through everything from line by line. Alright, I think that'll do for this week's SITREP. Let me know what you enjoyed the most about the latest patch, and or the least, if you had any issues with it. I did hear some issues for VR players, like I said. But remember too, there was an NVIDIA patch this week as well, as they promoted their 4080 Super GPU. And VR users will often tell you that once you've sort of set up your settings, any kind of updates often nix the gains made, or more tweaks need to then be added in afterwards. So it's a sort of constant state of flux when it comes to those settings. But either way, let me know if you had any issues. I want to again say thank you so much for all of the support recently. We are actually closing in on 11,000 subscribers, which has been a huge boost for this little channel this month. And it doesn't happen without your support. So this includes the likes, this includes the subscriptions particularly, and also the super thanks donors, which really help me and justify the amount of work that goes into these videos. Even a straightforward video like this is often several hours of work, even just waiting for the rendering, which can be 3 to 4 hours sometimes if the video goes over 20-25 minutes. So again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support the channel that way. It makes me challenge the YouTube algorithms, which are finicky, especially now that you can pay for things like support from YouTube and other third-party groups. I'm sure that there are YouTubers out there that use that. You can basically give YouTube money and they will help promote your channel, which makes it very difficult for those of us who are just relying on, community support, if you like. So again, don't forget to also check the Pimax store. As many of you know, I'm exploring that particular piece of hardware in VR for DCS World. You can use the code PricklyHedgehog72. That will get you a $50 discount off your next foray into the Pimax VR headsets, which are, I think, some of the best in the business right now based on what I'm seeing. I think it will continue to be the best way to enjoy DCS World in the future, especially as the hardware and the software support is going to get better and better for that particular experience. All right, that's enough of that. Once again, thanks for all the support. Cheers and take care. This is Prickly Hedgehog out. We'll see you next time on the DCS SITREP.